Despite being one of the most famous illustrators in the United States,
I'm totally famous and you love me.
He never wanted to be known as one. He tried many times to break into a career as a painter, but would never bring the same masterful storytelling abilities into his works of fine art that he did to his illustrations. Newell Convers, or N.C. Wyeth, was born on October 22, 1882 in Needham, Massachusetts. He was the oldest child with 3 younger brothers, Edwin, Nathaniel, and Stimpson. Their father, Andrew Newell Wyeth II, spent most of his time running a railroad hay depot business, while his mother, Henriette Zerngable Wyeth, or Hattie, raised her 4 sons and had an especially close relationship with N.C. As a child, Wyeth was passionate about drawing, which was encouraged by his family. Yeah! His earliest subjects were centered around the family farm where they lived. At 14, he was enrolled at the Mechanic Arts High School in Boston, where he studied drafting. Later, he transferred to the Massachusetts Normal Art School, where he was interested in illustration. Wyeth continued his education and developed his skills at, amongst other places, the Eric Pape Art School, where he would meet artists Sidney Chase, Henry Peck, and Clifford Ashley. In 1902, Ashley returned home after being one of the first students to attend the Howard Pyle School of Art. At Ashley's encouragement, Wyeth left for Wilmington, Delaware, where he too attended the school. Howard Pyle, who founded the school, was one of the most renowned illustrators in the country. Every artist at the school was handpicked by Pyle, and Wyeth quickly became a favorite. The two shared a love of horses, which can be seen in early drawings. With Pyle's help, Wyeth was able to jumpstart his career as an illustrator with magazine publishers in New York City. His first illustration was a success with Success, the magazine, and he soon found national success with a cover for the Saturday Evening Post. The commissions continued with magazines Leslie's, Metropolitan, The Delineator, and Collier's. And his first commission for a book illustration came from Scribner's in 1903. Scribner's became Wyeth's main publisher, and art director Joe Chapin would have a huge impact on the direction of his career. While in school, Wyeth met his future wife, Carolyn Brenham Bacchius, at a party. But at the time, Wyeth was too focused on his career to start a relationship.
I really should focus on this.
After only 2 years at the Howard Pyle School of Art, Pyle felt that Wyeth was ready to start his art career and graduated him in 1904. Pyle also felt that Wyeth should take a trip out west to get a first-hand look at Western culture, which was in high demand at the time. With Scribner's offering to pay for said trip, and in return create paintings for them, he headed out west to Colorado. On the trip, he worked as a ranch hand, riding horses, driving cattle, and sleeping out in the desert. He painted scenes of horses and cowboys, and then traveled to New Mexico to do drawings of a Navajo tribe. After having his money stolen by Mexican bandits, he worked as a mail carrier, traveling between Arizona and New Mexico until he made enough money to return home. Once home, Scribner's used his paintings and also told the story of Wyeth's trip out west in their March 1906 issue. The following month, Wyeth and Carol Bacchius were finally married. Wyeth's fame from Scribner's made him a favorite for Western paintings in the magazine industry, along with other artists like Frederick Remington and A.B. Frost, among others. During a conversation with Howard Pyle, Pyle told Wyeth that magazine work was losing popularity, and he encouraged him to focus on paintings for exhibitions, which he did, in addition to his increasing illustration work. Rather hypocritically, Pyle took a job as art director at McClure's after this, which was a new magazine published by S.S. McClure. Wyeth briefly took a contract at McClure's, hoping that it would allow him to focus on his own work. Pyle, though, soon lost this job.
He lost his job.
Which forced Wyeth to return to commissions, which included the Saturday Evening Post, various other magazines, and advertisements. Wyeth and Carol had their first child, a baby girl named Carolyn, in December of 1906. but the child lived only 6 days. The following year, their second child, Henriette Wyeth, was born. Wyeth had his work rejected by the Pennsylvania Academy of Fine Arts, and was frustrated that he was succeeding as an illustrator, but also failing as a traditional painter. In 1908, Wyeth, Carol, and their daughter visited Chadds Ford, Pennsylvania. Wyeth was able to focus on observing and painting scenes of nature, and Chadds Ford became their permanent home. Here, he painted several landscape scenes over the years. These paintings received positive reviews, though he couldn't capture the same emotions or storytelling that his illustrations were known for. A couple of particularly enjoyable commissions that Wyeth took were illustrations for George T. Marsh's poems, known as The Moods,
the perfect soundtrack for your way of life,
and an illustration for Arthur Conan Doyle's Through the Mists. In 1909, the Wyeths gave birth to their third child, Carolyn, and in 1911, their fourth child, Nathaniel Wyeth. Also in 1911, Wyeth was chosen by Scribner's for a commission of 17 canvases to illustrate Robert Louis Stevenson's book, Treasure Island. The book was unlike traditionally illustrated books that featured many simple drawings. The Treasure Island illustrations appeared less frequently, but were high quality, and readers looked forward to seeing the next one. This format would be imitated by other publishers. Wyeth painted over several months, and was passionate about the project. With the money from this commission, he was able to start building a house and create a new studio in Chadds Ford. After Treasure Island, Joe Chapin commissioned Wyeth to work on the Scribner's Classics book series, and gave Wyeth the choice of which books to illustrate. His works included illustrations for Robert Louis Stevenson's Kidnapped, followed by The Mysterious Stranger, The Black Arrow, and Robin Hood. The Wyeths had 2 more children during this time, with Anne Wyeth being born in 1915 and Andrew Wyeth III being born in 1917, which was the same year that the United States entered World War I. For Wyeth, being at home with his children took precedence over seeing the Great War firsthand, and he turned down multiple opportunities to be a painter of war. The Scribner's Classic series continued with titles such as The Last of the Mohicans, The Boy's King Arthur, Robinson Crusoe, Rip Van Winkle, Legends of Charlemagne, and The Odyssey of Homer. In 1924, Wyeth created murals for the First National Bank of Boston and the Roosevelt Hotel in New York. This same year, his mother passed away, and Wyeth felt that he needed to do more self-expression. He again pursued works that were more painterly. However, these works share the same problems with his earlier attempts at traditional painting, which is a lack of storytelling and a somewhat generic feel. When the Great Depression began in 1929, most people in the United States were financially devastated. The Wyeth household, however, continued to thrive, and N.C. was getting thousands of dollars for his commissions, even having a tennis court installed at his house. In 1930, he was commissioned to paint a mural of George Washington at the First Mechanics National Bank in Trenton, New Jersey. While painting, Wyeth almost fell off of his scaffolding. This scare led to a dream the following night, where George Washington narrated the Battle of Brandywine to him.
Legends never die, Keith.
The dream led to the painting In a Dream I Meet General Washington, featuring George Washington atop his horse talking to Wyeth. As he got older, Wyeth went through depression fairly often. His weight increased, and his mood was usually not so great. As his kids got older, he would give them all painting lessons. In 1932, Andrew Wyeth began taking painting lessons, and 5 years later, he took examples of his work to the Macbeth Gallery in New York. He had his first showing a year later, where he sold his entire collection of watercolors. Unlike the heavy-handed lessons that he gave his other children, N.C. gave Andrew space and let him develop his own style. As Andrew became a successful artist in his own right, N.C. became his manager, helping with exhibitions and advertising. After his show in New York, Andrew wanted to explore different mediums. He learned the technique of using egg tempera from his brother-in-law Peter Hurd, whom N.C. also taught. This technique allowed much more control over his art. N.C. also experimented with egg tempera, as well as oil on gesso, which can be seen in the 13 panels created for Marjorie Kinnan Rawlings' The Yearling. After Andrew changed the date of his second show, N.C. was asked to exhibit in Andrew's place and show off his recent tempera paintings. Andrew had his second show, which was also successful, selling out his entire collection again. At this point, Andrew became the dominant artist in the family. He became N.C.'s mentor, and N.C. sought out his son's approval on future work. In 1939, N.C. was diagnosed with a heart artery condition. This, combined with his increasing weight, meant he was at serious risk of a heart attack. Under doctor's orders, he was forced to slow down, which allowed him to become more of a mentor to his children. When World War II began in the United States, Wyeth's son Nathaniel was drafted, while Andrew was classified as 4F, meaning he was unfit for service. Unlike during the First World War, N.C. took on works that would help the war effort. By this time, he had worked on a wide range of projects, and was getting recognition and awards like the Medal of Achievement from the Philadelphia Art Alliance. He was also elected a National Academician by the National Academy of Design after submitting his self-portrait. He did a number of traditional paintings that included Mrs. Cushman's House, Pennsylvania Farmer, The Spring House, and Nightfall. His illustration work at the time included magazines, calendars, educational posters, and ads for Coca-Cola. The Metropolitan Museum of Art hosted the Artists for Victory show in 1942. Andrew and N.C. both submitted paintings to the show, but only Andrew's work was accepted. Andrew's career continued to eclipse his own, and N.C. saw Andrew achieve everything he had wished to accomplish himself. For all of the stories that he brought to life through illustration, he never felt that the work of an illustrator was a respectable one, believing that his work was unimportant. As a result, he often undervalued his work. For the remainder of his life, N.C. longed to be known as a traditional painter. On October 19, 1945, N.C. Wyeth and his 3-year-old grandson, Newell Converse Wyeth II, were driving near their home when their car traveled across the railroad tracks and was struck by an oncoming train. Both N.C. and his grandson were killed. A funeral was held for both of them 2 days later. N.C.'s death was officially ruled an accident, but there are those that point to his depression and an ongoing affair with his son Nathaniel's wife as motives for a suicide. Both of these claims are very much up for debate. At the time of his death, N.C. had finished preliminary drawings for the painting First Farmer of the Land, but the painting was never finished. His wife, Carolyn Wyeth, continued living in Chadsford and passed away in 1973. She, along with other family members, are buried next to N.C., with their names added to a stone that he designed. Their children, Henriette, Carolyn, Anne, and Andrew, all became accomplished painters. Andrew, after his father's death, created several paintings that reflected life as he saw it after losing his father. Andrew's son and N.C.'s grandson, Jamie Wyeth, also became a painter, who is still creating art today. Finally, if you want to visit N.C. Wyeth's home and studio, or Andrew Wyeth's studio, they are all located on the grounds of the Brandywine Museum of Art, located in Chadsford, Pennsylvania. The museum is housed in a renovated 19th century mill that overlooks the Brandywine River. It is home to over 5,000 works created by not only the Wyeths, but other American artists as well, and has a focus on the Brandywine region. The grounds also include gardens, the Kerner Farm, which inspired many of Andrew Wyeth's paintings, and over 4 miles of public trails. See the link in the description for more information. So, what are your thoughts on N.C. Wyeth, or any other members of the Wyeth family, even Stimson? How much of this work did you already know about, and which works stand out to you? Any other thoughts you have, please let me know in the comments. And if you'd like to see more videos like this, please support this channel by liking and subscribing.